Oh, it's Tuesday, which means it's scorecard. Shane Bacon, Patrick McDonald, Johnson Wagner. Fellas, it feels like this is the most amount of golf news that has floated around over the last 2 weeks that I can remember. I know we're winding down the season with the Tour Championship this week, and we'll get to that in a bit. We'll also touch on the BMW. But Brian Rolapp had a press conference, and he talked about the changes in a couple of years to the PGA Tour and the way that the finals are going to look like in the playoffs and match play being introduced. Patrick, there was a lot in that, let's call it 45 minutes or so, when Brian stepped in front of the mic at Eastlake and talked to the press and the world about what the PGA Tour might look like going forward. What stood out to you?
Honestly, I thought we were going to lead with Taylor Pendrith being named the assistant captain for the international team. I can't believe Brian Rolapp
just got bumped.
Just steamrolled him with this news today. But I think what stood out was the separation of the seasons that's going to occur there on the PGA Tour coming in 2028. The Tour Championship, the new look being a 2-week structure with the top 32 players from the regular season getting into a group stage a la the World Cup, and then the top 2 from each group advancing to the next week, which will be 16 match play bracket style. Everyone has to play every single day, so there won't be any dead air time. But I think it's another win for Rolapp, and I've been so impressed with both how quick the changes have come. He's only been CEO for 14 months, but both how quick they've come and kind of the cadence that they've been rolled out with. It never feels like it's too much to digest at a time.
Wags, in terms of what you thought he said and kind of what he touched on, anything maybe different that you heard when he took the mic and then obviously answered questions on the back end?
No, I wouldn't say too different. I am happy to hear him talk about pathways like the PGA Tour Americas, PGA Tour U, and Korn Ferry Tour still being such a valuable asset to the PGA Tour, and how those future stars are built and ultimately climb their way to the championship series. But just to piggyback off what Patrick said, in such a short amount of time, he has made dramatic changes, and I think all for the better. And what I really appreciate is the fact that they're not just trying to roll out this whole new system without figuring out some of the details first before telling us. Most importantly, I thought today we found out it's going to be 90 guys making that PGA Tour season finale. So that seems like it's going to be the exempt number. I thought that was some good new information, but still a lot of questions to be figured out. How many players coming off the DP World Tour are going to go straight to the championship? How many players are going to move up from the Challenger Series, possibly number 1 on Korn Ferry, number 1 on PGA Tour U? And I just really appreciate the fact that they're not just pushing these numbers on us immediately, because they are taking the time to thoughtfully go over it. You look at the last major change before this past year's Tour Championship, we went to the staggered scoring system. And I felt like the PGA Tour pushed that through the pack and the policy board really quickly without thinking about it or getting too many opinions from players about it. And it turned out to be a terrible system. And so I think this is going to be a great system. I'm really looking forward to 2028. And there's just a lot to get into there. But those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, Wags, somebody was talking to me today as we were kind of like listening on the press conference, and I thought they said something really astute about the playoffs, specifically, obviously, the FedEx Cup and the Tour Championship at the end. And they said if there's one constant to this event, it's been change, right? I mean, we haven't had anything in terms of consistency to end the season. And I think, you got to give credit to the PGA Tour for seeing something at the end of the season needed, right? I mean, you think about 3 FedEx Cup and the PGA Championship was in August. And after that, it was kind of like people turned golf off and went on to whatever else they went on to, whether that be fantasy drafts or, preparing for Ryder Cup, President's Cup and beyond. And I think if nothing else, this has kind of forced golf fans to stay, in tune with what's going on in golf. But I think the fact that they are looking at this, Wags, as a change to be made, and then hopefully sitting on those changes for a few years and seeing what comes from that, I think is massively important, because at least we can, people that want to watch it and consume it, at least we could be comfortable knowing year in and year out, at least for an extended stretch, it will be what we expect it to be.
And I think it's such a good opportunity. I mean, St. Louis, Patrick, I know we did scorecard after the round Saturday, Sunday. It was incredible out there. It was a venue that we hadn't seen much of lately. It had incredible fans. That needs to be the season finale. The BMW Championship needs to be the season finale. And it really gives a 3-week incredible run of golf. Like we talked, I think, last week about the PGA Tour has created this space, and they haven't necessarily done a great job bringing the eyeballs into it with this new 3-week tournament stretch with the finale and the 2 weeks of a tour championship. I mean, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be much watched TV. And I think players, you could feel their excitement level in St. Louis last week as opposed to their excitement level in Memphis, going to a place that they hadn't seen, great crowds, and just a different town. So I'm bullish on the future.
And Patrick, I think there were, social accounts when news had broke a few weeks ago about some of these changes, and they got wind of the idea that we're going to visit these cathedrals of golf. Like, that's what the PGA Tour is going to do. And we all kind of went, this sounds great, but how are you going to take what the PGA Tour offers in terms of setup and structure and build out to a place like Seminole or Pine Valley or Cypress Point or Fisher's Island, right? You think about kind of these golf courses, they all want to play basically Johnson Wagner's lineup for a year, the PGA Tour trying to get involved in that. And, I think the fact that Rolapp admitted that it's going to look different when we go to these places, I think was a huge win, because the USGA has done a great job of that, right? They go to these golf courses where they don't build on the other course and they don't take over the place, and there's a minimal footprint compared to PGA Tour events. And I'm assuming the fear from those big golf courses is we don't want to lose the golf course, grass, areas around greens for a year or so, because that's what happens when you have those grandstands up.
Yeah, and you'll get the big build out at the BMW Championship, Wags. I'm totally in agreement with you where they're probably going to take over this championship series finale. And I'm not sure if anyone does it better than the WGA and putting up an event like that. You mentioned it yourself. It felt like a major championship. It always just feels bigger than another run-of-the-mill PGA Tour event, the BMW Championship, that is, when I've gone to a couple of them. And then, like you mentioned, Shane, once you get past that week, it's like, okay, we can kind of tighten things up, make things more intimate. And I think with this, you cater to both the hardcore golf fan who wants to see those cathedrals, who dreams one day of playing a Pine Valley. I'm not saying they're going to go there, but of these courses that everyone talks about, but not everyone is able to see. But you also cater to the potential average sports fan and trying to make this pie bigger with the bracket style, with, let's call a spade gambling opportunities, with the potential to create rivalries going one-on-one, be like, oh my gosh, remember when Rory and Scotty went one-on-one against each other? That's not really something we get now with stroke play. And so I think to thread that needle has been very impressive. And then the potential to go to these golf courses, Shane, you mentioned Johnson's been to all of them. I know you have too. The PGA Tour also has like Jimmy Dunn in their back pocket, who they work with often, who's a member at, I think, every single one of them. So
all of them.
That's another card to potentially play.
Yeah, he if he can't get you, he's not a member there, he can get you, and I can promise you that. It does add an element. I think when we go to places like Aronimink, like we went with the PGA Championship this year, and if nothing else, get to feel what classic architecture looked like. I think that's been something we have lost on the PGA Tour in terms of the scheduling. We go to a lot of TPCs, which makes a lot of sense financially. We got to go to a lot of these places that might not be the quote unquote best golf course in that area. I think dipping your toe, you think about the playoffs, less players involved, and you can go to these types of golf courses. If nothing else, it adds another layer of talking points, and I think people get excited about seeing it. I got to give credit as well to Rolapp and company, because the PGA Tour over the last 20 years has been extremely scared of match play. Match play used to be integral in terms of professional golf. It used to be obviously the PGA Championship structure, huge match play events in the European Tour back in the day. Obviously, the Dell match play in Austin, I thought, was a great success. But the fear of the PGA Tour continued to go back to was the end of match play. And I'd love to hear Rolapp expand on this a bit. But for both of you guys, outside of the NFL, what's the most successful sporting event in our country? It's March Madness. It's the fact that we get March Madness in March. March Madness is the best on the front end, not the back end. Now, we might get a great championship game, but that first weekend and that second weekend is when the fans, even if you're not a college basketball fan, dives into it. And I love the idea of leaning into the early parts of this. I know we've got some potential matchups that we would have seen if Top 32 was happening this year, and there's some great ones early on. And I know we always do that when we get the bracket. You go, man, it might be Duke, North Carolina in the second round, or you might get Gonzaga, against Kansas if we get to round of 16, and that's so exciting. We'll do the same thing in terms of this golf. And if the players buy into that, it's going to make it even more exciting. Wags, Do you think the players, after the honeymoon phase of this thing, will the players buy into match play? Is that something you think players still care about?
I absolutely do. I think the problem they've had with the playoffs in the past is that there's no real, like, Scotty Scheffler should have been the regular season champion, was for the last 5 years, and he's now being rewarded the last 2 years as being the regular season champion. That's what they're going to do at the series finale. They are going to applaud the season-long winner, but then it's going to, like Rolapp said, it's going to be an entirely different sort of structure and tournament, and it's truly going to give 32 players a chance to take home the Tour Championship. I think players are going to be all behind it. And look at tennis. Major championship tennis, Grand Slam tennis is fun to watch. Wimbledon, U.S. Open, and now I know tennis is a little bit easier to predict who's going to win. It's easier to be a dominant force in tennis, but those are some of my favorite non-golf events to watch, or Wimbledon and U.S. Open and all of them, Australian Open, French Open.
Yeah, and viewing wise, like the people that want to go on site, those early matchup days are better. I mean, you talk about U.S. Open tennis. That first week of U.S. Open tennis, if you want to consume a lot and feel the energy on the grounds, those are the days to go, not necessarily semifinals or championship. And Wags, something I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned regular season winner, is I know you're a fan of the Western Amateur. They give out a big trophy to the stroke play champion that week, and then they go on to match play. And I love the idea of there's a quote unquote regular season champion that was the best player in the regular season. We do it with MVPs and other sports, and then you lean into the playoffs. I do like the idea of giving love to the person that was the best of the regular season, and then getting to the playoffs and giving out something for that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's time for a change. I think fans and players alike have been dying to see something like this. And who knows, like you said, this format has been tweaked in the entire 19, 20-year history of the playoffs. It continues to get tweaked. So it may not be perfect at first, but I'm sure they're going to do everything they can to get it that way soon.
Just some of the matchups again this year, Patrick, that we're looking at. If you were going to break it down, those early matchups, we would have had Morikawa, Justin Rose, which I think people would be interested in watching. That first round of Xander, Victor Hovland, I think would be exciting. I mean, you kind of look at some of the pods that we would see. I mean, you had Scheffler with Hideki and Gerard and Poston. I mean, potential matchups for like major winners that are going to go in the World Golf Hall of Fame. And those are going to be fun for golf fans, as you mentioned, Patrick, not only to watch, but you talk about in terms of gambling, because golf has gotten so much into this, and the PGA Tour specifically. I think match play weeks are the easiest weeks to bet on.
Absolutely. And you throw a bracket in front of any sports fan and they're already engaged. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. But with the regular season, you obviously get awarded with the bonus and money and all that at the series finale, but you also get rewarded with potentially an easier putt. I actually think if this one played out, Scheffler, it kind of got a tough one out of those. And Burns, of course, got the group of death with Xander, Hovland, and Adam Scott, who's playing some great golf. But I like the 2-week cadence of it, just because it felt like with the Dell Technologies, it like came and went so quickly. And so to spread it out a little bit, I think that is a good move. And with every single sport now, they're all trying to make more events, it seems like. And I think Rolapp was wise to do so.
And Wags, last thing on match play. I think in golf, we love the idea of rivalry, right? But golf has a really hard time with rivalry because in theory, you're never playing the player. You're playing the golf course, the tournament, all of those things, the field. I think when you think about rivalry over the years, whether it be the match play, a Ryder Cup, President's Cup, Solheim Cup, or beyond, that's where players typically get fiery. That's the time where you see Bryson going at, Tommy's caddy, right, at a Ryder Cup like we saw last year. Like, that's when this stuff gets juicy, and golf could use a boatload of that to just create those storylines during the regular season when you see players matching up that don't get along. Think about Brooks and Bryson a couple of years ago. That dominated the headlines.
Patrick Reed and Rory McIlroy back in the day in the Ryder Cup. Even the fact this year at Bethpage, everybody wanted that singles match of Bryson and Rory, and just begging for Luke and Keegan to get kind of behind closed doors and say, hey, let's give the world what they want. But it didn't happen. Yeah, it's going to happen way more often, and arguably the biggest event the PGA Tour has.
Well, obviously these aren't coming into like real actual action until 2028. But obviously talking about them, rolling them out and all that stuff, I think is exciting for us in terms of golf fans and golf media, because we've been looking for something to juice up the playoffs and the finals. So enough of that. We're going to take a break, come back and actually break down the golf over the weekend. Wyndham Clark, another win, potential player of the year. We'll get into all that and more. Stay here for Scorecard. Back here on Scorecard. Before we can go forward, we'll go back. We'll talk a little BMW. Wyndham Clark picks up another win, Wags. A guy you were a little cold on to start the year, I'd say. And he has proved all of us wrong. I mean, the season he's had has been incredible. Obviously, the switch with the putting. And it was pretty cool early on Sunday with the putter, but he heated up late.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect Rory, the birdie bogey, perfect situation for Rory on that first hole. It got interesting quickly. I mean, Patrick Cantlay jumped up there, tied for the lead. Rory, obviously, birdie in 11, ties for the lead. It just, it was an amazing finish. And I mean, just time and time again, BMW Championship knocks it out of the park. I think switching venues around, that's something we were just kind of talking about with the Tour Championship and with the BMW. I think players, when they showed up, they had this enthusiasm, and it was just, you could feel it all week long. It was incredible out there. The golf course was good and delivered a fascinating finish.
Patrick, you and I have been on this year about Rory and the par fives. I feel like this is going to be that outlier year. I remember there was a playoff run a few years ago with the Warriors, and Steph would keep missing free throws. And you kind of like, well, he can't miss another one, and he would miss another free throw. I kind of feel like that with Rory this year at the par fives. We talked about it at Aronimink, where I don't think he made a birdie on that second 9 par 5 the entire week. Obviously, we talked about it at Shinnecock. Even at Augusta when he won, he struggled to find fairways on the par 5s the first 3 rounds. And then he gets this opportunity on 17 after Wyndham doesn't hit a great tee shot to potentially push him on a par 5 and makes a total mess. I'd love to hear Rory's thoughts on the way he's played par 5s this year, because that has, throughout his career, been the superpower.
I know. I asked Trevor about this after the round to see if he had any thoughts on it. He just says, you know, the simple, you got to hit more fairways. And it seemed like, I think Rory hit only 1 on the front 9 on Sunday and still turned in a couple under, and then hit a few more early in that back 9. But when he absolutely had to, like you mentioned, Shane missed that one on 17. It's got to be frustrating. I'm curious if it's like in his head at this point, and he puts a little more extra pressure with the driver off the tee on par 5, knowing that he has been struggling to find the short grass. I doubt it, but you know, for mere mortals like me, it definitely would be. And then, of course, you spiral a little bit. But you got to remember, this guy beat 2 guys in Memphis, and he only lost to 2 guys this week in St. Louis. So it feels like he's just he's gearing up for the Tour Championship again.
Yeah, he's gearing up for the Tour Championship, a golf course he's obviously played well at,
yes.
And then who the heck knows what he's going to play after that. Obviously, he's got some DP World Tour events he's got on the schedule that I know he's probably going to be a little bit focused on. Wags, I want to go back to Wyndham for a moment, because I find one of the more impressive pro golfer things is when you can make the switch within the round. I think Tiger was like the best all time at that, where he'd play 9 holes relatively indifferent, make the turn, and walk right in. The fact that Wyndham felt so lost on the greens on Sunday after playing so solid for basically, what do you want to call it, 52 holes? I mean, obviously, I know he missed a couple of shorties late on Saturday, but you get into Sunday, you make nothing with the putter, and then all of a sudden, last 3 holes, you hold 3 lengthy putts right when you need it. It's kind of been the definition of the Wyndham Clark experience this year.
Yeah, I think Patrick likened it to a 3-point shooter on the Sunday night scorecard show. Just got to keep shooting your shot. It was weird, though. I mean, Patrick, I know you and I talked about this. His interview with Amanda after the round, he said, I wasn't nervous. I just didn't have anything. And it's like, you're in the final round of the BMW Championship against Rory McIlroy, and you didn't have like any sort of, he's like, it was weird. I didn't feel right out there. So I'm going to chalk that up to nerves and just feeling a little bit uneasy, even though he said it wasn't. Final round in that situation with those crowds, they were starting to turn on him again, similar to Shinnecock, and he fought hard. It was impressive.
Patrick, I have an important question for you. Do you think Rory has a Wyndham Clark problem? Do you think Rory can beat Wyndham Clark? Does he have? Is this his kryptonite?
Is it 2-0 now? Is it 2-0 now?
I think so. Like 2-0 in the moment, big moment.
Yeah, and he has a win at Rory McIlroy Country Club. That's Johnson Wagner's country club as well at Quail Hollow. I mean, he has 6 wins total on the PGA Tour. 5 have come at major championship venues, and then the 6 came at another major championship venue in TPC Craig Ranch. And so I don't think he has a Wyndham Clark problem. I will say what's been interesting these last 2 wins for him is the lead that he's built up and then kind of sleepwalking, as he mentioned, and then kind of getting slapped in the face, waking up, throwing some cold water on his face and realizing like, oh my gosh, I have 5 holes left. I'm still in the mix here. Like, let's get it done. It's weird. It's almost like he enjoys the tension and all the pressure once everyone's breathing down his neck and he's booted away a big lead.
Yeah, he's like, this is more fun for me. Other notables, Wags, Cantlay. I think he finished birdie. Cantlay finished with 3 straight at the end to just jump in.
So after making a mess on 11 from that right fairway bunker, it was crazy.
So Cantlay sneaks in. I know we'll get to Patrick Cantlay in a bit. The story that keeps on giving this season, Gary Woodland, Patrick, gave us another. I think this is the first tour championship he's made since 2019 when he won the U.S. Open. I know Gary was in the hunt through 2 rounds, and he talked about being a little bit uneasy and unsure on Saturday, but being able to kind of gut it out on Sunday and play your way in after all he's gone through in the season he's had, to me, is story 1A as you get to Eastlake.
And I know we've talked about this year being kind of weird from a winner's perspective, but I feel like this season has been very human on the PGA Tour. Yeah. Even look at someone like Wyndham Clark and kind of going against the fans, Bud Colley, of course, and Gary Woodland. And Gary had a chance after number 8 as well to win this golf tournament. I think that put him 1 back, and then obviously flighted it a little too well off the tee on 9. I want to hear from Wags when his last top was.
I used to top my 3-wood quite a bit in college, and I haven't topped a ball since, I don't think. I think it would be college. But I was walking with Gary, and I was just over the creek in the left rough and some shade, and this thing came off. It was I jumped. I didn't know how to react to it, and it almost. If it had been a yard right, it would have gone over this temporary player bridge to walk over, and I think would have been considered the shot of the year had it gone over that bridge. But it was shocking. I haven't seen anything like that with my own eyes ever on the PGA Tour. I know it's happened a few times, but it was, and then the whole rest of the day when he's got that 2-iron that he can really flight low, I'm standing just off to the edge, and I was a little worried about getting hit at one point by Gary.
Maybe that's what we had some fun, Wags, on Scorecard a couple of weeks ago with that bridge in Memphis, the kind of random bridge that was there. Maybe if there'd have been that bridge there, Gary could have banked it off it and still got in the fairway. He needed the weird floating bridge. One other thing I wanted to touch on in terms of players having obviously a great year and playing their way into it. Patrick, you mentioned this name earlier. Adam Scott gets into Eastlake, top 30, gets you into all 4 majors. So now if he stays healthy next year, that that consecutive start streak in the major is going to move to 105.
Yeah, really impressive. And like Gary, he was someone who went from not even qualifying for the postseason in 2025 to all the way to the Tour Championship. I like looking at those guys. Alex Smalley and Tom Kim, I believe, are the other 2 to accomplish that. But awesome stuff from Adam Scott. And quietly, it doesn't seem like we've seen him on the leaderboard too much this year, but such a consistent year throughout the bag. It's really incredible to see at his age.
Wags, anything else you got for us from Bellerive?
I'd like to highlight Ryan Gerard as well, making the Tour Championship. I mean, this is the guy that kind of flies under the radar, not super flashy, and he just had a tremendously consistent year, getting all the way into that top 30. And we've spoken at length about how important this 2027 season is going to be. So for him to be in all 4 major signature events, certainly would think Ryan Gerard's going to be part of that first championship series in 2028.
Yeah, and a shout out to Colin Morikawa, who after a great start to the season battled injury, kind of finishing off the year in style. I do wonder about Morikawa going forward. I mean, I think it's so easy. We did this with Victor a couple of years ago, having a great playoffs, and you think that's going to translate to the next year, and you kind of forget it's 5-6 months until they play, real PGA Tour competitive golf again. So it's a little hard to kind of stay in that, in that flow, if you will. But the fact that Morikawa is finishing off a relatively forgotten middle of the season year after a great start, I thought was really nice. All right, we're going to talk President's Cup after the break because we have auto qualifiers and also got some names we want to throw out. And then obviously that's when Patrick can get into Pendrith and more. Don't go anywhere. This is Scorecard. Back here on Scorecard, Shane Baker alongside Patrick McDonald, Johnson Wagner. Fellas, let's talk a little President's Cup. Obviously, we've got solidified players for the matchups upcoming at Medina. I think the auto qualifiers are set. Take it through who we got on the American side. This is going to shock both of you guys. Scotty Scheffler has, in fact, locked up a spot on Team USA. He will be on the team. We're kind of in that moment if that's going to happen. Cam Young as well. Wyndham Clark kind of jumping with the win up to an automatic spot. He was right on that number going into last week. Sam Burns, Russell Henley, and Colin Morikawa. Patrick, feels like something Brandt Snedeker was probably pretty happy with in terms of those auto names getting in there.
Well, we were talking before with how the qualifying is over 2 periods. Ben Griffin was number 5 coming into the week, and he's just had a poor season. Obviously, you come off the peak of his 2025 with 3 wins. Going down is likely to happen, but he probably didn't envision the downturn being this drastic. And so for Snedeker to kind of likely kick him off this team and pick 6 other guys, I think is helpful for him.
Feels like, Johnson, that Goddard's going to be on the team. Ben Griffin, obviously, just mentioned for Patrick. He's at 8 right now. Xander going to be on the team at 9. JT at 11 seems likely. Cantlay at 13, I think, will get picked with the way he's playing. We'll get to Cantlay and some of the pressure he'll be facing this week with some of the weight from the boys on his shoulders here at Eastlake. Akshay there at 14, and Matt McNeely at 15. We talked a few weeks ago, Wags, about Koiven and some of these young players. Do you think Sneds will go with more of a random assortment after those key figures in terms of JT, Xander, Goddard, and Cantlay? Or do you think he's going to kind of stick to the script and go with somebody inside maybe that top 14, top 15?
I mean, I wish more than anything he would. And JJ Spawn, a heck of a player, obviously U.S. Open champ last year. I just think he's had a similar year to Ben Griffin. I know he did pick up a win, but JJ Spawn earned all his points last year as well. And I think Griffin and Spawn are 2 guys inside that top 10 that I personally, if I was captain, I wouldn't have on that team. I did have dinner with Michael Brennan on Sunday night, and he told me, I asked him if Sneds had reached out, and he said he has not. So I'm a little bit upset by that, because you would think a guy with his power and skill set, you would love to get one of those young guys on the team, but it doesn't appear that it's going to happen.
Wags, I was with you.
What did he order, Wags? What did Brennan go with? You go with like something healthy?
We had a bunch of sushi rolls and sashimi, and we just split it up between him and his caddy and myself. Great dinner.
Patrick, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Thanks for the invite. You're talking to the lone Japanese guy on the program, and couldn't even cop the invite. I'm with you though, Wags. We had to do our picks on Sunday. I had Brennan on my team, and I also had your guy Ryan Gerard also on that team to kind of inject a little bit of youth in first timers, because I think as of now, it's only going to be Goddard if it shuffles out the way most people think it will.
We were talking, FedEx Cup earlier, fellas, and how kind of the constant has been change. And I think the President's Cup falls a little under that, where the constant has been no surprises. I mean, you know who's going to win before the event starts. You kind of know who's going to be on the team. You even know assistant captains. You have an idea of who's going to be the captain coming down the pipeline. It's like you want something to shake this up, if nothing else, to get people talking about it for a couple days. And I know I've been kind of beating the drum on the young guys, Patrick, but it just feels like having 2 or 3 on that bottom half, especially with what we're seeing on the international side, one of the weaker international teams we've seen in a long, long time, just feels like an opportunity to put guys in a position to get a win early in their career in terms of team golf, get them to get a little bit of experience, and also see if you can rely on them or not, even if it's not as much pressure as a Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I think Furyk for 24 just went down the list, 1 through 12. Didn't make any decisions outside of that. And so I get that Snedeker's in a tough position. We've talked about it a lot where everyone's focus is on the Ryder Cup from the fan perspective, and they want him to do things with the Ryder Cup in mind. But like, guess what? Brandt Snedeker's in the Ryder Cup captain the following season. Why should he do that? And if you're the lone American captain to lose, yeah, you might bring more eyeballs to the event down the road, but you're also the lone American captain to lose the President's Cup. So it's a tough position to be in. I think there is enough leeway, enough experience, and enough talent on this team, though, with all that said, to take chances on someone like Michael Brennan, who has an elite skill set off the tee. He's won twice in like 30 events. He made all 4 major championship cuts. He'd be so much fun to play with an alternate shot. There's so many positives there that even with all the noise around it, you can still make that decision.
And again, if he struggles out of the gate, in theory, Wags, you could sit him, right? You could just sit him if he's not playing great.
Well, and I mean, Ben Griffin played pretty horribly at the Ryder Cup last year. You're telling me you'd rather take Ben Griffin than a Michael Brennan? I know he's 8th on the points list, but we got to have one of those young guys on the team. I know all 3 seems ridiculous: Koivu, Thorbjornsen, and Brennan, but I think Michael Brennan's. I think his body of work is just a little bit more refined and polished, and a little bit more what you're getting from him right now.
And Wags, I mean, he's been a kid that has bucked since he's turned pro. I mean, I think that I lean on that stuff a lot. Like, we talk so much on this show and so many golf shows, we'll focus so much on PGA Tour golf. And I understand why you focus on PGA Tour golf. But this was a kid that right out of the gate was dominating and winning golf tournaments with whomever he was facing off against. And he was winning in playoffs, and he was earning cards, and then he was winning and skipping tours because of his skill set. It's like he obviously doesn't feel intimidated playing in new environments because he's been great at that already in his career. It's like, let the guy go out there and bake, because he's an incredible baker.
I mean, his length, his short game and his wedge game has gotten a lot better this year as well. He's spoken at length about his putting. Like, he seems to me to have all the tools that he would pair with anybody. He could be a chameleon on that team.
International team auto qualifiers come after this week, so we'll touch on that in the following week. But of course, 6 are on the team, including, as I said, Scotty Scheffler. Hopefully, no hand, mouth, and foot for President's Cup week. Hopefully, he's all healed up and rocking and rolling by that point. But yeah, we'll see who the picks are. It'll be very interesting. I do think that there's more interest in this President's Cup team in terms of the players picked than I can remember in years past, which is a good thing. And hopefully at least one of those young guys, and I think we're all kind of in agreement that it should be Brennan, is on that team. All right, we're going to take a break, come back, talk Tour Championship, top East Lake. I think the weather's going to be better in Atlanta, Wags, which is good for you. I think it's not going to be like, surface of the sun level hot, which is a bit of a surprise over the years. So we'll get into East Lake and our picks after the break. Well, fellas, it all comes down to this. Last event of the PGA Tour season, of course, Tour Championship, East Lake. It's a golf course we know and we're familiar with. Patrick, I did get a good chuckle. I was listening to the Shotgun Start Boys after Monday, and they were talking about Player of the Year, and I thought they made a great point. They said, this is the only time anybody's ever really cared about Player of the Year. It doesn't really seem like an award that dominates golf in terms of what we care about because we pay so much attention, obviously, to the major championships and who won those. But it's a storyline going in. What's your top storyline in terms of what we look for over these 4 days at the Tour Championship?
Yeah, well, it's never been a storyline. Like you mentioned, that's why people don't care. Scotty Scheffler's just been better than everyone. I think even last year, if there was like a global Player of the Year, we would have had a conversation with what Rory McIlroy did, winning the Irish Open and the Ryder Cup too. And then what's like the last time it's been kind of top of mind on the PGA Tour? 19 maybe? Was that Rory and Brooks when they went back and forth a little bit? And so. It's
probably that year where it was the major debate, right? Wasn't that kind of the idea there, Patrick, with Rory and Brooks? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Scotty won it when Rahm went to live too, so that didn't really matter as well. So my top storyline, I think the guys who have gotten to East Lake without a win, I'm looking at this week because there's been some awesome seasons, and for someone like Sam Burns and Siwoo Kim, you could say this season has been a stepping stone to potentially an even better 27 when they're in major contention more, they're winning multiple golf tournaments, all that. But on the flip, you have forgotten seasons from guys in their prime potentially like the defending champion Tommy Fleetwood, who's had a chance to win one golf tournament on the PGA Tour this season.
Yep.
Xander Schauffele again. We talked about Cantlay. You could even throw in Bobby McIntyre. Ludwig's cooled off a bunch. Many guys in this field, they got in through their consistency, but they're at risk of kind of having a forgotten 2026.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick, to your points on Tommy Fleetwood, there feels like there's about 5 Tommy Fleetwoods going into this week where they've had good seasons and they're still looking for that first victory. And they're notable names and people root for them. Last year, Tommy was so incredible. I mean, 15 top 25s headed in out of 18 starts headed into the East Lake, and then obviously goes on to win. But I mean, I think part of that story last year, Wags, was the heartbreak that Tommy went through, Travelers and beyond, where he had opportunities to win golf tournaments and couldn't quite get it done. But I do think the storyline, to Patrick's point, Wags, about those players that could kind of finish off a solid season with a huge victory is one of the big things going in, maybe outside of Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, to the echo the point, Siwoo and Sam Burns have done everything but win, but do they have what it takes right now? They've come close so many different times, and especially Siwoo. Like I'm getting a little concerned about his inability to close.
Yeah, I mean, his season has been incredible. 23 starts, 13 top 25s, 11 top 10s, and he has 5 top 3 finishes to Siwoo Kim without a victory. So getting very, very close. Wags, I know you're going to be on the ground, get a chance to take an East Lake. Is it a golf course that does much for you? Do you like the course? Do you think it fits this mold? It feels like we're probably going away from it after next year.
I look, it is visually incredible. Andrew Green, a fellow Virginia Tech Hokie there, Patrick. Andrew Green did great work a couple of years ago. And I think when you look at it, the green complexes have this sharper edges, more little pockets where they can tuck hole locations. The bunkering is very visually stimulating. I think the green complexes and some of the runoffs are great. But as a whole, this golf course seems like it's just 480-yard par 4 after 480-yard par 4. The par 5s are very blah to me. Though there's only a couple holes that are exciting whatsoever, and that's 8 where you can actually hit it in the water, and 15. I'm sorry to say this golf course, other than I think it is visually beautiful, I just think the way it plays, there's just not a whole lot that it does. It's just all the holes seem to go in the same direction. They all look the same. No, I don't particularly love it.
Wags, I think the thing that I've always thought about with East Lake is I've been watching this golf course for, 15 years, 20 years, whatever the number is. I still don't know how the players should successfully play 18, which is the closing hole, and they flip the 9s to make 18 the closing hole. Like, I just kind of think about 18 as this hole that should have these historic finishes with eagle putts and things like that. And I think more times than not, guys drive it in the rough and then they have to figure out a way to hack a 7-iron over the water. I just don't quite understand the golf course and some of the tee shots and some of those things that it asks of these players. And I do wonder sometimes if the players feel the same way.
Well, I mean, just to go back to the first year of the Andrew Green restoration, the 18th fairway, all the balls were running through into the right rough. And the players complained so much that the PGA Tour went out and mowed down the right rough so they could actually get it over the water. Otherwise, it was just a 50-yard pitch short of it. I mean, that's an awkward tee shot. I don't really know what this golf course asks either. I think it helps to hit the ball in play, but then you look at the success that Rory's had around here, and if you get it down far enough, you can control a jumper with some sort of wedge in your hand. But if you're coming into these greens with 7-irons, 8-irons, that ball is going to rocket. It's going to be very difficult to hold the greens.
Did they put in internal OB on 18 one year too? Like guys were going up. Was that last year?
Yeah.
It was the first year as well. It was down off the 18th tee. You couldn't play it down the 10th hole. Because you could just take it right over and shorten the hole by like 50 yards. And then on the back 9, the other par 5 that goes up the hill, I believe it's 6, they were playing practice rounds. They were playing it up the 7th fairway to shorten it by 30 or 40 yards as well. So sometimes tree removal isn't the greatest thing.
Patrick, my favorite ever was the Bryson at 18 at Sawgrass when he was dipping his toe into, what if I hit it up 9? And people were like, wait, what? I mean, if you ever played that golf course, it is so far left to go up 9. But the fact that he wanted to play it over the water to the green as opposed to going across it. You're like, I mean, I think you're overthinking this a bit much, my man. I think we've seen it with the 1-length irons and maybe now in the way you want to play 18. But Patrick, if nothing else, no starting strokes, which means everybody in the top 30 has an opportunity to go into it to take home a boatload of cash.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a little weird, like we saw last year. That I mean, Fleetwood had a great season, but for his only win to kind of come at the Tour Championship and to be the FedEx Cup winner, I think this is an era that we will gladly move past after next season, I'm guessing, and to get into a more focused format, it will be good where you can crown a regular season champion and award them, and then get into something different.
Well, not that was stranger when we did the different winners, Patrick. Like when you'd have the FedEx Cup winner and the players that won the tournament. Was
it the second year VJ didn't even have to play the Tour Championship?
Yes. He had so many points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, wait, I don't think this is how it should work out. It's like the Golden State, whatever year that was, 2016, was like, we won 72 games, man, in the regular season. Like, I think we just deserve the trophy. And they're like, you got to do the playoff thing as well. But I'm with you guys. I think embracing what it is for what it is. You get 30 big names in golf. It's one more golf tournament. There'll be a few weeks from now where we're wanting to watch golf, especially the big names playing. And a lot of the time it'll be on early because you'll get that late run of European Tour golf. But I think just kind of accepting and appreciating the fact that we do get to see the top 30 play one last time before we get to President's Cup and beyond. Is something we should remember because we'll be yearning for big name golf, I think, in a few weeks' time from now after getting a boatload of it on the back end. But that's your Tour Championship breakdown. How do we do, guys? You think we nailed it?
Can't wait.
So good.
Wags is pumped to walk. He's pumped to walk this golf course this weekend.
I mean, Wags, you got to do all black again on Sunday, don't you?
Always all black on Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be a scorcher out there.
Jeez. That is a decision that has been made for Mr. Johnson Wagner. All right, we're going to give our picks when we return. Only 30 players. No chance the three of us are picking the same player to win this golf tournament. You'll have to stick around and see if that's the case. Back here on Scorecard, fellas, I'm a little sad. I think this might be our last picks of the year. I mean, I guess maybe we do Pres Cup, huh, Patrick? Maybe?
Maybe. And we've gotten the names right on this program. They have been named on this program, which I don't think everyone can say.
I would venture to say Wagner has named Wyndham Clark in this segment the most. And Wyndham Clark, if he wins this week, would have the most wins. So Wags was, in theory, correct by naming the guy. I'm assuming Wyndham's going to fall on some list here, Wags. So we'll start with you. Obviously, last event of these playoffs, Tour champs. We're at East Lake. You'll be out there. Who is not going to win this week of the 30?
I mentioned Siwoo Kim and my worries about him being able to close. He's on there. Morikawa, I walked with him Sunday. He did not putt consistent enough to win. And then I got to finish the season like I started. Wyndham's on that list. It's too hard to go back to back. He's not doing it. I know he's playing great, but no dub for dub.
Oh, man. Just going to be the year we will remember from Johnson Wagner. Patrick, who you have not winning?
I got Cameron Young. He has forgotten how to putt. Tommy Fleetwood also in that same boat as well. And then I'm going to say Ludwig can't win this week. I just don't see it.
I just went down the odds board and I took the top three names not winning. I got Rory not winning, Scotty not winning, Wyndham not winning. I'm right there with you, Wags. So if we sit here and say who's not going to win this golf tournament, I need to know who is going to win this, Wag, with just about a minute or so left.
Yeah, I'm going to skip the three that I think could win and just go with Patrick Cantlay. It's his time of year, Patrick McDonald, and he's going to run away with this thing.
I'm with you. He is the original bag man. He gets up for the Tour Championship. Almost won last year. People forget he gets it done this year.
Patrick taking Patrick. Wags taking Patrick. I'm going to go with Siwoo Kim. Very much like what we saw last year with Tommy Fleetwood. Would love to see him get it done. And I think he's one of those players in terms of his resume and career at this point, at 31 years of age, could use this on the resume. A reminder, Tour Championship. You can watch Wags Saturday, 3 Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus. We'll wrap things up Sunday at 1:30 Eastern. See you guys next week.